being here, hanging out where sports meets life. We have the opportunity to speak with fantastic people connected with the sports world every single year, and it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to do the things that we get to do here at Wake Up Call. We've had over 4,000 guests on the show, and each of them telling a unique story from all different walks of life. For those of you that have paid attention recently to what's going on with Wake Up Call, I appreciate that. As we've jumped deeper into the boxing world, we were at the International Boxing Hall of Fame weekend, the Friday night fights, Showtime Boxing, and today I'm going to have the opportunity to feature somebody who's no stranger to the broadcast, but in a different way than the last time we sat down, and that is super lightweight boxer Bryce Mills joining me, Liverpool High School alum, coming from Liverpool, New York, right here in our community of Central and Upstate New York. He'll be joining me live picture-in-picture momentarily inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', following his recent victory at Turning Stone Resort and Casino this past Friday in the ring that had Showtime going on that day. A lot of people in the crowd, and I mean, Roberto Duran, a lot of incredible boxers and people from the history, Christy Martin there as well. And so this is a huge moment for Bryce, and we're very excited to talk with him about his journey and his history and everything that's coming up. Dave Pasiak, speaking of coming up, will be in hour number 2 from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time to speak on the NBA Finals and the Denver Nuggets solidifying their first ever NBA title in their first ever NBA Finals appearance. And then we'll round out the show with the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicolli's, right down the road from Liverpool High School on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. So, a lot of great stuff coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we appreciate you being with us. And with that being said, picture in picture with the man, Bryce Mills. Bryce, it's been a minute. We were talking about it off the air, but welcome back to the show.
Yes, it has. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Bryce, I mean, I want to start kind of back there in that moment of when you and I were talking, you're playing on the football team at Liverpool High School. Bring me into that, and let's start there in that moment for you of being a football player and then making the transition into where you are today. Bring us on the road, because you didn't just get into boxing, you did other things in between. So paint that picture for those that don't know the full story.
Yeah, so growing up, I was a multi-sport athlete. I played football, I played baseball, I played basketball, soccer. I did a little bit of everything. I did martial arts when I was younger. But you know me, and we met from my high school football career over at Liverpool with Coach Mancuso and yeah, all those guys over there. Football has always been a big part of my life, and I've said it before, high school football, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. I still talk to my teammates to this day, and I miss it every day. Just the camaraderie of high school football, and the team has played such a big part in my life.
And when you came off of football, like you said, you've been a multi-sport athlete for a long time. Coming off of football and kind of working into that world, the fighting world, you weren't simply going into boxing. Bring everybody into, how you got started in that world.
Yeah, so my first fight actually was a boxing fight at the age of, man, I always forget. I want to say it was 11.
Yeah.
They're 11 or 12, but my amateur career was mainly actually in kickboxing.
Yeah.
Not boxing. I only had 15 amateur boxing fights total, which is not a lot of amateur boxing fights if you don't know the sport. Most professionals have over 100 amateur boxing fights and build their career up in the amateurs. My career was built in kickboxing, a different sport. I was 28-1 as an amateur kickboxer. I won multiple national titles. I won a world title. Boxing, I won silver gloves, but then again, I only had 15 fights. So I'd made my name in a completely different sport, kickboxing.
Yeah, and as a kickboxer, I mean, that in and of itself, like you said, I mean, didn't have a ton of fights, but that is its own
Yeah,
entity, separate from what you're doing right now. So why did you make that shift from kickboxing into where you are right now as a super lightweight?
yeah. I mean, I loved kickboxing growing up, but unfortunately for the sport itself, there's not really much after the amateur level. Like it's tough to really make a career out of it as a professional, just because the sport isn't really marketed that well, and it's not really as big as boxing. And don't get me wrong, I love boxing growing up too. I watched great boxers like Floyd Mayweather growing up. Roy Jones Jr. Turn his highlights on all the time on YouTube and watch him. So I've been around the sport,
Yeah.
but yeah, kickboxing just didn't have that market in the pros.
So was it hard for you, speaking here with Bryce Mills this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora Live, was it hard for you to transition from kickboxing into boxing?
It was a lot of changes had to be made.
Yeah.
I had to make a lot of adjustments, technique wise. With a lot of different. I had to sharpen up my fundamentals with my hands. But kickboxing, I feel like helped me out a lot in a lot of ways. I think kickboxers move their feet more than boxers do. I think so. I think my footwork was an advantage that I used early on when I started boxing because I had that from kickboxing. But yeah, yeah.
Here with Bryce Mills on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and like you said, that kind of helps you out a bit. Kickboxing, using your feet and whatnot. What can you say about your technique and when you shifted over from kickboxing into boxing? I know you were speaking on the fact that kickboxing can only go so far, and the market isn't as big, and there's not as much coverage, or maybe you didn't feel like the opportunities were there as much. When you're sitting down with your team, you're sitting with your family, you're sitting with the people that have been around you, training you forever. When was that moment where you said, I've done what I could do in kickboxing, it's time for me to shift?
So that moment actually came when I was 17 years old, and really, I felt like I've accomplished everything that there was to accomplish in the amateurs, and I decided it was time to turn pro. But at the time, I turned pro originally in kickboxing. But once you're a pro in combat sports like kickboxing, you're considered a pro in all combat sports. So that also includes boxing. But at the time, my first two professional fights were in kickboxing. So I made my professional debut at the age of 17 over in Dubai, actually, which was a kickboxing fight on a primarily kind of mixed kickboxing and boxing card.
Yeah.
And then I had another kickboxing fight back here in Syracuse at the age of 18. And then after that, I decided there wasn't really, honestly, much of a market that I could really push myself into after those two fights. So we said, why not try my hand in boxing? So I took 6 months off from fighting and primarily, picked up my boxing training, worked on a lot of the things that I was talking about earlier, like my boxing fundamentals, and then sharpening my game up. And then I made my professional debut in boxing.
You talk about being a pro at the age of 17. I mean, that to a lot of people is insane, and here you are, you're in high school, you're playing football, and on the side, you're doing kickboxing and you're doing all these things, and you had started to really live, and you said, obviously being a multi-sport athlete, but you were living in two different worlds at the same time. How difficult was that for you to be a student, be a kid, be an athlete in school, and then at the same time have this professional career that was really unique? It's not like you could look around a lot of places in upstate New York and say, "Oh, somebody's doing exactly what I'm doing."
It was kind of cool. I embraced it. I enjoyed it because, like you said, at the same time, I'm a kid still, and I get to hang with my friends. I get to, do what kids do in high school. I'm an athlete. I was on the football team, but then again, I'm fighting in Dubai. My pro debut in kickboxing, and here I am sitting in English class at 9 in the morning in Liverpool, like listening to my teacher talk for, you know what I mean? So it was unique, but I enjoyed it. I didn't think that it was really difficult to balance all of that. I still was able to get my training in, and I think a large part of that is because I just love what I do.
Yeah.
So when I think of training and working out and pushing myself, I don't really think of it as something that bothers me or something that's hard to do. It's more like my meditation, honestly. Like, it helps me out, and I enjoy doing it. So,
Bryce, were you ever nervous playing football, playing other sports, competing in other things? Were you ever concerned that one of them was going to affect the other? Because I remember thinking that in my head of like, okay, you're out here fighting and you're playing on the football team. If you get hurt in one, you're hurt in both. So, I mean, did you ever think about like, hey, I'm really putting, because you weren't playing, it's not like you were playing a contact sport and then one that was relatively, it's not like you were playing tennis and kickboxing.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you're playing a
Do
barbaric
contact sport.
sport and a barbaric sport. So, I mean, how did you kind of handle that and deal with that, because your body had to sustain a bunch of blows on a Friday night and then you had to get ready for a fight.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, it's true. It's a good point. Uh, that was really a decision that I had to make. I had to say, okay, I'm going to sacrifice my career as a boxer and as a professional in my sport just to, play football. I just had to do it because at the end of the day, I'm still a kid
Yeah.
at the time, and I was thankful enough that my parents were able to guide me and able to tell me that, it's be a kid, have fun, play football, do what you love to do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if something happens, then something happens and you'll have to live with it. But that's life. You can't not do something because you fear being it. You fear another problem starting, right?
Yeah.
I had to be a kid. I had to play football and enjoy that time with my friends and do something that I've grown up and loved to do. I just had to take the risk.
And you said you just had to take the risk. How did your body deal with those moments? I mean, when you think back on that, were you, sitting in a bed of ice at all times? I mean, how did your body kind of acclimate to what you were putting it through?
Yeah, I did a lot of recovery work. I definitely had my fair share of days where I was super sore and in some pain, but overall it wasn't anything crazy. Uh, I've grown up playing football and fighting on the side as well, so my body, I guess, was kind of accustomed to it and used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no other sport, including boxing, that I can say is more physically exhausting and more it banes you up the most than football. Like, football it's brutal. I gotta say,
Do you miss it?
I miss it. Yeah, that being said, I do miss it very much.
Dan
There's
Tortora.
no aspect like playing with your group of brothers, your friends, your team, and having that camaraderie of a team.
And speaking here with Bryce Mills on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Bryce, like you said, there's nothing like playing with your brothers, with that camaraderie, with the team. Going from a team sport to an individual looking sport. Now, mind you, you have the training element of it. You have a lot of people working with you, and like you said, your family around you and whatnot. So there's a team of people that are, there on the side of the ring talking with you after each round, getting you ready, getting you prepared, keeping you focused during the fight. So it's not that you don't have a team, but it's different than being on a football team. To be in a sport where it's individualistic in the sense of when you're in the ring, it's you versus the world. How have you
Yeah,
transitioned from being one of 11 to being the only guy?
that's a good question. Like I said, it wasn't really anything that was new to me because growing up, I had my first fight at the age of, I want to say it was 11 years old. Uh, at the time, it wasn't really much of a transition because I was used to doing it from the time I was 11. But then again, I kind of thrive, I'll say, under the spotlight. I enjoy the pressure. I enjoy all eyes on me because then again, if I lose, you know, that was my fault. There was nobody else that I can make an excuse and say, "Oh, this person didn't have a good game, or this went wrong, or that went wrong." No, like I was the one in the ring. The pressure's all on me. But on the other side, if I win, I was the person that won the fight. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was the person that put the work in and did what I had to do to win, and I kind of enjoy that. I like the pressure. I thrive under it.
And that's something that's huge. Like what you said, you thrive under the pressure. Some people run from pressure. They run from adversity. They run from the threat of pain at all. Usually in a fight, somebody runs from getting punched in the face. Yet you stand right there. What is it about boxing that I mean? Because like we were talking about, I saw the fight at Turning Stone over this past weekend. I mean, you put
Yeah,
yourself out there, you put yourself right in front. You were in attack mode throughout this fight, and
yeah,
you were there was a lot of good hits you got in and a lot of good opportunities. But when you go after some of those hits, there was that response right from your opponent from Depina coming after you. So
yeah.
what makes you run toward the punch, and how do you sustain a hit? Because I think that's something. I mean, we watch and somebody had said it over the weekend. They said, "Listen, these boxers." Ron Borges said it when we were talking. He said, "When boxers are fighting in a ring and somebody's not having a great night, people are saying, 'Oh, this guy's terrible,' or 'That girl's terrible,' or they stink," or whatever. And the reality of it all is like what he said. He said you might be having a bad night in there, but it takes a lot to put yourself in a boxing ring, to put yourself in that scenario and then that situation. You might not have a great fight that night, but so few people are going to put yourself out there. Why are you in a sport where you can repeatedly get punched in the face?
Well, when you say it like that, it sounds a little rough, but it's just something I love, because I'm not just the one that's getting punched in the face. Sometimes I get to punch people in the face too, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
No, it's yeah, I look at it as a sport. So I know from the outside looking in, a lot of times people look at it as, oh, like Bryce just ate a big punch, or oh my God, he just hit that dude with a big punch. That's the hurt. But to me, it's more of a sport. So I look at it's no different than a pitcher striking out a batter in baseball. Like there's no emotion that goes into my fights when I'm punching someone or I'm getting hit. It's part of the sport. I can punch you in the face for 6 rounds or get punched in the face for 6 rounds, and then after the fight I can walk across the ring and shake your hand and say good fight. You know what I mean? Because I realized at the end of the day that yeah, it's a sport.
And when you talk about it being a sport and the beauty of it being a sport, what is it about boxing? Like you said, people see blow for blow, punch for punch, and they don't really see what's on the deeper side of it. How would you describe this sport, and why do you love to be a part of boxing?
Uh, well, I like the fact that, like you were saying earlier, uh, it's it's a one man sport, meaning that when you're in the ring, the pressure's all on you. If you do well, that was because you fought and you did well, right?
Yeah.
But if you lose, uh, it's obvious that you made mistakes and you have to fix them. You can't blame this person or blame that person. And of course, a team goes into uh, the sport, meaning they help you and they prepare you and they help get you ready for that fight. But at the end of the day, when you step in that ring, it's just you, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, coming here from Bryce Mills. Bryce, we got a question that came in. It says,
Yeah.
who are some of your favorites in boxing? They know that you had mentioned people before, that you had mentioned Santorelli from Cocoa Beach, Florida. So, who are some of your favorites in boxing?
I so my favorite one of my favorites, a boxer that I've been watching a lot recently, is Julio Cesar Chavez. I've been watching him a lot recently, and I think part of the reason I was watching him a lot for this fight was because I understood that DePina was a slick boxer and liked to fight off his back foot. So I
Yeah.
realized that I was going to have to fight a style that was a forward pressure style, come forward, high guard, lots of head movement, and put the pressure on him. And that's something that fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez specifically did so well. Uh, Other than him, a lot of other fighters I watch, I really can't pinpoint an actual favorite because there's so many boxers that I watch.
Yeah.
But if I had to name a few, Roy Jones Jr. is one. If you've ever seen his highlight reel, I don't know if you've ever gone on YouTube and checked out his highlights, but if you've, it's unreal. He does things that seem like they're, seems like he's a superhero. Seems like he's not human
Yeah.
when he steps in the ring. And to me, it was always amazing watching him. So he's one. Floyd Mayweather, because I've grown up watching him, and at the end of the day, he's 50-0. You know what I mean? He's still taking these exhibitions and doing what he does with no training against, I wouldn't say boxers, but other people in the ring. And he's putting his reputation on the line, and he's completely comfortable with doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
Floyd's absolutely amazing. So Roy Jones, Floyd, Chavez. I like watching Sugar Ray Leonard. There's a lot of guys that I look up and research and watch. I'll go on YouTube some days if I'm bored, and I'll literally sit there, and it seems like hours can fly by just because I'm just constantly watching fight after fight or fighter highlight reel after fighter highlight reel, and yeah, doing my research or watching these fighters.
Well, and when you're talking about that, I mean, how much of it is watching? I mean, when you're going into a specific fight like Depina, and you said you're watching Julio Cesar Chavez because of the different things that you can utilize from watching his game. Do you do that with each fighter? Do you try to find a fighter out there, film out there that can help you with that specific fight? So it's not necessarily, hey, I'm watching, I love Mayweather and I'm like, yeah, you're watching his stuff, you're watching Roy Jones, but before each fight that you have, are you doing what you did like this fight with Depina, where you're researching who they are, the type of fighter that they are, and then going out and trying to find somebody that had success against it?
Yeah, I actually do that for most fights. So if I'm fighting a certain fighter and I have a certain game plan going into a fight, that like this last fight with Depina, to put the pressure on him and come forward and bring the fight, I'll watch a specific fighter that fights that style or fights that way. Or if, let's say, my game plan was to fight off my back foot, I was fighting someone who was shorter than me, who was a come forward pressure fighter, and I felt like I could outbox him and fight off my back foot. I'd watch other fighters that for that fight I may watch like a Floyd Mayweather style, because I feel like I'm very versatile with my game. I feel like I can do both. I can fight off my back foot, or I can bring the fight. and come forward. And it helps to watch guys who fight different ways and watch different fighters, because if I can just take a little part of what you do,
Yeah.
great, right? I can apply that to my game, then it works. It works well, and it helps me out a lot.
In this fight against Dapina specifically that you had on site at Turning Stone Resort and Casino, Friday night fights, showtimes there. Bring me into that fight, and well, first and foremost, let's go into the musical choice and the choice for and the garb that you're wearing, right? The
Yeah,
robe
yeah,
and the shorts and all that, because you were New Yorked out and he was Boston out as well. I mean, it was New York versus Boston, and he's in the
that's
state of New
right.
York. So if they didn't know Bryce Mills, they saw New York, they saw Boston, and all of a sudden you got a lot of angry New Yorkers in there saying, "All right, we're going for Bryce." So bring me into that.
Yeah, I had to do it. I knew he was from Boston coming in. Obviously, that wasn't random. So I had to get under his skin a little bit and rep the Yankees. I've been a lifetime Yankee fan too, so that wasn't out of nowhere. But yeah, Aaron Judge. I had the Judge jersey on, the '99 Yankee Judge jersey with a Yankee hat, and my pinstripe shorts on. So I was all Yankeed out. I've been a huge Yankee fan all my life, and huge Aaron Judge fan too. I think he's phenomenal, crazy. One of my favorite athletes out there right now. So I knew he was from Boston, and I had to show that off a little bit.
And the musical choice, for those who weren't there, let everybody know what you picked.
shout out to shout out to my cousin's girlfriend Gretchen. Shout out to her because she actually picked my music choice.
Yeah.
It was New York. Frank Sinatra. It started out with Little Sinatra, and then it went into a remix. Went into Empire State of Mind by I want to say it's Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, or
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to mess that up, but yeah, I went into Empire State of Mind right after, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was great because I know both of the songs, and they're two songs that get you like amped up. You hear New
Yeah,
York, and everybody from like four different generations is ready. And then when you hear New York State of Mind and you hear Alicia Keys, there's something about. I mean, I'll put it to you like this: if I didn't
yeah,
know you and I saw the Yankees come out versus the Boston stuff, and I heard that New York remix into New York State of Mind, I'd be like, I don't know who this kid is, but he's got good taste. So I mean, I would give you that. Hearing the crowd, hearing people, scream out for you, and in certain parts of the fight, yelling out different things and whatnot. I mean, you definitely had the crowd by your side. You don't have that in every fight that you're going to go out there and do. How much does the crowd play into your fight, especially if you feel like you're down and you got to come back a little bit? Do you pay attention to the crowd at all, or is that a non-factor?
uh, I do, I do. I try to tune out the negative, and taking the positive, but I feed off that energy. If I hear the crowd going crazy and cheering me on, and everybody's screaming and clapping and let's goes and the motivation coming in, of course it motivates me. I feed off that energy. It gets me excited to go out and bring the work to my opponent and do what I do. At times, I know my coach may not like to hear that, because a lot of coaches, including my coach, tells me to stay within myself and focus on the game plan and fight how I should fight, and don't let the crowd dictate how I fight. But at times, I got to say, I get caught up in the crowd, and I feed off that motivation.
Yeah, and being here, being at Turning Stone, and being in the fight, how would you? We got some questions and comments that came in, so I'll get to those in a minute. Thanks to everybody that sent them. But Bryce, for you in that specific fight, I know how I saw it from my angle, and I'm right by the ring, sitting there in media press row, and I'm close enough to see it, very close, without getting any blood or spit on my face. And so like That's how I was like, I'm close, but I got a little bit of a buffer that the spit will fall there. So watching this fight, it looked like, you were in attack mode. He had some moments, but you like to put him up against the ring, and it looked like you could have given him even more of a blow at certain points, but like you almost didn't. I mean, I want to hear from you kind of what you're, as the fight's going on, what you see, and do you ever pull a little bit and say like, okay, you know what, I'm doing enough, I'm not going to kill myself over this. How did you experience this fight against Apina, and what did you take away, as far as like kind of your technique and things you were doing?
So coming into the fight, I kind of expected him to box a little more, use his jab a little bit more, kind of try to outpoint me and fight off his back foot. Uh, Once I entered the ring and the fight started, I kind of realized that he didn't necessarily box as much as I thought he was going to. He kind of was relying on, I think, knocking me out, to be honest. He was throwing one big shot and then doing a lot of holding and protecting himself. But he wasn't necessarily putting his combinations together, but he was loading up with one big punch.
Yeah.
So seeing that, I kind of had to make an adjustment in the ring and realize that, okay, I'm winning this fight, right? I'm up on points. I'm doing more damage than he is, and I'm winning these rounds. But I got to stay cautious because he's throwing these punches with bad intentions, right? So, like you said, at times it felt like I maybe could have done a little bit more work in certain moments of the fight, but I chose to, back off or circle around, move around the ring. And that was because I realized that he was loading up with that one punch, that one bomb. And I had to be cautious because at the end of the day, he was a 12-1 pro going in, and he had a great amateur boxing career. He obviously knows how to throw a punch, and throws a hard one. So, yeah, I was staying cautious and fighting smart.
And coming here from Bryce Mills on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora this morning, super lightweight, coming off a victory here at Turning Stone Resort and Casino. We have a bunch of questions and comments and things that have come in. First one is, with optimal scheduling and health, how many fights would you like to have per year?
Man, the right fights, I could fight 4 times per year, 4 to 5 times per year right now. Early on in my career, I had 1 year, my first year as a professional, where I fought 7 times in 1 year. And that's a lot of fights,
Yeah.
But then again, I was just getting my career started, and I needed to do that. I needed to get myself out there and fight as many times as possible. Now I'm now 12-1, and it's more about taking the right fights against good, solid opponents that will move my career forward. So it's not about fighting every month now, but it's more about making the right fights happen and fighting guys who will move me up in the rankings.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, I guess too, when you say 4 to 5 fights per year, because there's so much that goes into it that people don't see, kind of like that iceberg effect of, people see the fight, which is that little tiny tip of the iceberg, but they don't see everything under the water, which is the preparation to go into it, getting your body ready, watching film, doing different things. For you, I mean, if you have 4 to 5 fights per year, and like you said, 1 year you had 7, how do you deal with the in between? Because, I mean, do you get stir crazy? I mean, because when you want to be a professional boxer and you want to make this your life, right? And you want to make money doing it, and you want to take care of yourself. Everybody wants to. I would hope that people want to do what they love and love what they do, and have the thing that they love pay their bills, so that they're not doing this job over here and then trying to do what they love. So how do you live in this world? And especially in the in-between, when you're trying to make a career out of something you love, and 4 to 5 fights per year means that there's a lot of gap time.
Yeah. So for me, I think something that's different than a lot of other boxers and a lot of other fighters is, I think fighters train in camps, meaning that they'll fight, and then they'll take, let's say, a few weeks off, or man, sometimes even a month off. And then once they realize they have another scheduled date or a fight lined up, then they get back into the gym and then they start training again. I come from a martial arts background. I was a lifelong martial artist. So to me, this sport and what I do is a lifestyle. It's not necessarily like, okay, you have a fight coming up. Now let's get into the gym. Uh, I was working out yesterday. I was back in the gym yesterday.
Yeah.
So I don't really take time off because, like I was saying, I don't necessarily know how to take time off. I don't really know my life without this sport. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy the training that goes into every fight.
Yeah, and when you look at that, and like you said, you enjoy it all. It's a lifestyle. It's part of what you do. The question that came up from there is, where do you see your boxing career 5 years from now? Do you still see yourself training full time in Central New York in 5 years? Was also another question.
Yeah, this is my home. This is my home, and I've been here forever. We've made some great connections, and I have a great team around me right now. All local guys. Sometimes I'll go to Rochester for sparring and spar some guys out there. Sometimes I'll go to Albany. Sometimes I'll go down to the city, or I'll stick to my sparring partners in Syracuse. But there's a lot of good work I can get here in Central New York. And I have a great team around me, so I have no intentions or no plans to move somewhere else and have to start over again from square one.
What's the plan 5 years from now? Where is Bryce Mills?
Man, 5 years from now, let's hope I'm at the top of the game with a few belts on my shoulders. Hopefully I'm able to, give back to those that have supported me so much, my community, my loved ones, my friends, my family at that point. And yeah, hopefully I got the belts on my shoulders. I'm loving life. I'm still fighting, but I'm a world champion at that time.
And there's so many. It's strange now. It gets confusing because there's like a bunch of different belts, right? And there's like this is a world champion, but then this is also a world champion at the same time.
Yeah.
Do
Yes.
you want there to be one championship, like one specific clear championship, one belt for each weight class?
100%. And I think every other boxer in professional boxing will tell you the same thing I'm telling you right now. I think everybody wants, one champion, one belt, one direction, one guy that they can shoot for and say, okay, I beat this one guy.
Yeah.
I'm at the top of my division. I'm the best boxer in the world. But, unfortunately, boxing just wasn't started that way. It wasn't built that way from the start. There's different commissions, different belts, different champions, and it's tough for everybody to really get on the same page because this person doesn't want to give up this belt, and this commission doesn't want to give up their title, and this commission doesn't want to give up their title. You know what I mean? So it's tough for them to really get together and say, okay, we're only fighting for this one belt.
Yeah.
But I think it's how it should be. I think it'd make the sport much more entertaining and easier to follow for sure.
How do you measure success? Because if it's not a title fight, if
Yeah.
if you're not making a ton of money doing this or doing that, some people measure success in money. They measure it in trophies. I've never been that way, and I think you can be successful every day, in my opinion. But how do you measure success?
Uh, that's a good question. Well, I'd say I measure success with the feeling I get at the end of each fight and how I feel at the end of the day after a long training camp, after a long, putting hours and hours, blood, sweat, and tears literally into this sport. And when that final bell rings and I get out of the ring, what's the feeling I have inside?
Yeah.
Do I feel like I improved this camp? Do I feel like I gave it absolutely everything I could this camp and put as much effort as I possibly can into that reign, do I have that feeling inside where I feel successful? I feel like I did what needed to be done to be a success. So win, lose, or draw, having a belt on my shoulder or not fighting for a belt, of course, that's nice, right? Of course, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to win a belt. But what really matters is the feeling you have inside, right? Because at the end of the day, the only person that truly cares about you winning and losing, of course, others care. Of course, my team cares, my family cares, my loved ones care. But the person that cares the most is always yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So if you feel successful, you're successful. And if you feel like you put the hard work in, I can't lie to myself. That feeling that I have inside at the end of the day is what tells me if I'm truly successful or not.
I love that. Bryce Mills here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. A lot of comments, a lot of questions. I want to thank Alex. Very kind words. Thank you, Dan, for covering this local talent. I cannot understand why local mainstream media won't cover this local pro. I always cover local. Bryce knows that. That's how we met. Tito said, congratulations, Bryce. Tito working over at the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Do you know Tito?
I do know Tito. So Tito, was it Tito? What was his last name?
Tito Colon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so he works at the International Boxing Hall of Fame. And
yeah,
I mean, they supported me. They were very supportive this past event. It was great to work with them, and I appreciate that they're following me, and thank you. Yeah, that means a lot.
We got another question. What is your dream boxing venue or event if you could pick one?
Oof. That's a tough question.
I would say the Garden if it was me, but
I was just thinking that. But not the Hulu Theater in the Garden, because I know they have a lot of fights there in the theater. Yeah. Of course, the theater would be great to fight at. But if I could fight in the Garden where the Knicks play, the big Garden, I think that would have to be, my dream venue for sure. We would bring if you think we had a lot of people at this last fight, the Turning Stone, I can guarantee you we would have a ton of people at the Garden.
Yeah, no, and oh my goodness. That would be crazy because I would love to go to a fight in the Garden. And if it's a fight in the Garden and it's you, let me tell you something. First and foremost, I don't know what I have to do, but we need to make sure that I get to walk out with you to New York, New York. I don't care if there's a stream of 82 people. I got to be in that 82. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, this walkout song would have worked great if I was at the Garden. That's for sure.
Yeah. So we got another thing that came up. Pat Orr, who obviously has done a lot of photography work and supports you. She said, hey Bright. Would you say she's the best?
Yes, yeah.
She is, I would agree. So she wrote in, she said, let me see here. She said, hey Bryce and Dan. She said that she's wondering if any of the champions that were there over this weekend had any advice going into your fight or after your fight.
So I actually briefly I was able to speak with Roberto Duran before my fight, which was crazy. I was starstruck, obviously, because I mean Roberto Duran is a boxing legend. I think it goes without saying. And he was talking to me about how he grew up, his career as a kid, growing up. And he said he actually wrestled as a kid. And he said, it was funny. He said once he realized that there wasn't much money to make in wrestling, he said, I saw a guy that was boxing. And I asked him, how much money is there that I can make in boxing? And he told me way more than wrestling.
Yeah.
He goes, I immediately took the wrestling gear off and put the gloves on and started boxing. So I was talking to him before the fight. I was also got some advice from Ray Mercer actually after my fight, who congratulated me and told me great job, and he told me to stay patient and take my career slowly. He goes, "You're still young." He goes, "You have a bright future ahead of you, but you got to take your time. You got to relax. You got to settle down and stay patient because this career and this life can really take a toll on you. I'm sure if you're go 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 constantly and you're fighting 7 times a year, you're fighting 8 times a year. It's more about taking the right fights
Yeah.
at the right times and moving up the ranks slowly, but stay patient so I don't burn out. It's basically what he was saying. Just great advice.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sharing this with everybody right now that's in the feed. I mean, that's some fantastic advice. And not only is it fantastic advice, but it's coming from Roberto Duran and Ray Mercer. I mean, poor you,
Yeah, it was
right?
cool.
So before your fight, you got Roberto Duran. After your fight, you got Ray Mercer. So I mean, when you're already pumped up, you're amped. You've prepared yourself for this fight. You've watched Julio Cesar Chavez, and you've gotten kind of like your research on how to handle this fight and whatnot. And then Roberto Duran's talking with you before the fight. I mean, what did that do for wherever you were? Like if you were at level 10 out of 10 getting ready for this fight, where did Duran put you? Like speaking with him right before your fight, what did that do for you and your energy going into the ring?
If I was at a 10 out of 10 going into that fight after speaking with Duran, I was at 100 out of 10. You know what I mean? With my energy level. Uh, I've always looked up to Roberto Duran from the time I was a kid. I've seen his fights against, Sugar Ray Leonard back in the day, against all the great legends, great welterweights back in the day. Uh, Obviously, I look up to Roberto Duran, so him taking the time out of his day to speak to me and being able to meet him uh, really, really pumped me up and was awesome. A moment I'll remember for the rest of my life.
And when Ray Mercer comes to you after the fight and he says to you, congratulations, on the
That
win
was
and this and that. I
yeah.
mean, where was that? Did he like where did he talk with you?
So after the fight, we all usually get together at the sportsbook area of the casino
Yeah.
and celebrate a little bit. So he came down there with it was actually him and Vinny Pazienza that were walking together, and they both congratulated me, and I met them both, and then that's where he was talking to me. So yeah, that was crazy.
So and Vinny Paz, I mean, he also congratulated you. He's a
He
different
did.
energy.
Oh yes, he is exactly what in the movie Bleed for This.
Yeah.
I feel like is exactly what you get with Vinny Paz. He's all of it. He's awesome.
So did he say anything? I mean, he said congrats, but was there any more time spent with him?
No, I just kind of briefly met him and introduced myself, and he said congratulations on the fight, but didn't really speak with him too much.
So Ray says what he says to you. He tells you to be patient, to not burn yourself out.
Yeah.
You were talking to me about that earlier here in our conversation.
Yep.
When you were speaking to me about, hey, I got to space out my fights. I've done 7. I don't want to burn out. When Ray says that to you and it's already something, was it already something you were thinking about, or did Ray put it in your head? Were you already kind of like, hey, I got to be really selective, I got to be smart, I know I'm passionate, I know I'm hungry, but I have to wait for the right fight? Is that something that you already had in you, or was that more of like, hey, I wasn't thinking that way, and now that I've spoken with Ray, like I get it?
Uh, I have, like I said, I have a really good team around me that has told me that in the past. That's important to stay patient. But hearing a great ex champion like Ray Mercer himself say that to you, just solidify now. And at times, I think I forget that I am only 21. I had the mentality of go, go, go. I want to fight, fight, fight because, at the end of the day, I want to move my career forward as fast as I possibly can. The only way to do that is by winning fights. So I have a good team around me that tells me to relax and stay patient and tells me to ease up at times when I'm maybe working too hard or training too hard. They tell me to relax, because I guess I'm only 21, I guess. So I have a long career ahead of me.
We got another thing came at Tito asked a question. He said, Bryce, who has been your inspiration and what pairing in professional boxing would you like to see in any division? So two different questions. Who's been your inspiration? And then secondly, what pairing in professional boxing would you like to see in any division?
So my inspiration, man, it's a difficult question. My inspiration actually would have to be a local fighter that doesn't have the recognition of guys like Roberto Duran and all these legends. But to me, he's a legend in his own right and has done phenomenal things in the sport of actually kickboxing. And I'm fortunate enough to have him as an older brother in my life, a friend, a mentor. My inspiration, I'd have to say, is Kevin Van Ostrand. I don't know if you ever heard his name. World champion in kickboxing, in glory kickboxing. And like I said, my older brother, not by blood, but he's been mentoring me and been helping me out since I was 10 years old, since I was a little kid. He was there beating me up, dropping me with body shots and sparring when I was a little kid. And now he's there giving me advice and watching me. It's just crazy because I feel like when I was a little kid and I was 10 years old, I used to watch him fight.
Yeah.
And in my mind, he was a superhero. Like he wasn't a person. It was like watching a superhero get in the ring and fight. So seeing that really inspired me and drove me to, get in the ring myself and try to one day be half as good as what I saw out of him in the ring. And then what was the other question?
The other question was, what pairing in professional boxing would you like to see in any division?
So like what fight would I like to see?
I guess that's what he's saying, is if you could pick a fight, who would you put up against each other?
There's so many fights you can make in boxing right now. And it seems like they're starting to happen, which is great. We just had Teofimo Lopez fight Josh Taylor this past weekend, right after my fight. We had Devin Haney-Lomachenko, Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis. Now, supposedly, we're going to have, I hope, fingers crossed, we're going to have Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, which will be a crazy fight. But if I had to make one fight happen right now,
yeah,
I'd love to see, I'd love to see Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson versus Devin Haney. I think that right there, I think those two guys right now are the best lightweights in the world, in my opinion, even though there's a lot of great lightweights out there. But if those two guys fought each other, I think that would be absolute fireworks.
Haney versus Stevenson, that's the one you would pick.
Yeah, for sure.
I like it. All right, I just shared that with everybody. Let's see what we have here. We got another one. With your background in kickboxing, did you ever consider training in the sport of MMA?
I did actually. Because, like I said, I grew up in a gym where we had a lot of kickboxers, professional kickboxers, a lot of professional MMA fighters in my gym. So, of course, I considered it. I waited it out, and who knows? At the end of the day, when I'm 30 years old, maybe it's still an option. I can never rule it out completely, right? But right now I'm focused on one thing at a time. So boxing's where I'm putting all my effort and all my direction, obviously.
Yeah, and I thought about MMA too because you hear Bryce Mills and you hear kind of like that rumbling of that, but at the same time, like you said, you're a boxer right now, and you're focused on that. I mean, for you being in the super lightweight right now, and where you are in boxing, is this the lane that you want? It's like, okay, you know what, super lightweight, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going to be, because we've seen boxers fight in different weight classes and do different things. I mean, you look at Timothy Bradley Jr., who is, I think I'm 5'8", he's what, 5'6", I think. He was put in to the International Boxing Hall of Fame over this weekend, and he's been in two different weight classes. Where do you see yourself? Where is Bryce Mills? Are you staying, where you are, and do you think like, hey, this is my lane and this is where I can really take it, or could we see you somewhere else?
Uh, right now I'm focused on being the best, winning those belts in the super lightweight division. So once I do that, and once I accomplish that goal, then okay, I'll say, okay, now I'm gonna look at the welterweight division, or now I'm gonna look at the lightweight division. But yeah, it's one division at a time, one fight at a time for me. I feel like I can't have my attention over here and over here. I got to lock in and focus on the guys in my division and take it one fight at a time.
I agree completely. Focus on what you have right in front of you. I have to ask you though, what's behind you? Ironically, is you got
Yeah.
some boxing stuff here. What is around you here as we speak this morning that is of significance?
So, you mean what do you mean by that?
Like the stuff, like the posters and the stuff that like we could kind of see behind you. Bring me
Yeah, I mean,
into the choices.
yeah. So that's actually a poster. This one right here is a poster from way back in the day when I used to kickbox.
Yeah.
Uh, that's one of my belts with Lace Up Promotions, an amateur kickboxing promotion that runs great shows that I was fortunate enough to fight on as a kid. And that picture right over there with all those belts is after my fight, a picture with, yeah, all the belts I won. You can see that's like my silver gloves belt right there when I won silver gloves. The middle belt's actually a world championship belt from kickboxing, and then there's a bunch of like national titles, and yeah, all great memories.
Coming here from Bryce Mills. Bryce, we're going to play rapid fire really quick here. You know it from years ago when you were on the football team. So we're going to
Yeah,
play
yeah.
rapid fire. You've been great at answering my questions. So I am going to, obviously, with rapid fire, as we always do, put myself on the hot seat. We'll go back and forth for a couple here, but you get to ask the first one.
Okay. Hmm. As you know, I'm on off my weight cut right now. I'm out of camp. If you had to recommend one restaurant to me right now, what would it be?
Oh, man. Is it in New York or can it be anywhere?
It can be. It's got to be local.
Okay.
Syracuse.
Okay. Okay. Oh, boy. So many good restaurants I work with. So
Yeah.
that's why this is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, you and I never did a show at Avicolli's, so I'd bring you to Avicolli's and right down the road from Liverpool High School.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we we get some good veal parmesan because not a lot of people do veal right, but they do. So
Okay.
we'd get some veal. We'd get some. We'd get some. What else do I want to get? I love everything there. We get some veal. We get some margarita pizza, and we get the antipasto. We got to have a big old meal going. And then we probably get. I don't know if you like shrimp, but they got some good shrimp pasta over there too.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good one. I got to say, I've tried Avicolli's a few times, and I love them myself. So nice to take you up on that. Sounds good.
Fair enough. All right, Bryce. You and I are going to spend a day together in the car, and you're the driver. Where are we going in Central and Upstate New York?
So many options. Man, where are we going? I'd have to say the Boxing Hall of Fame,
Okay.
Canastota. Why not? I think a lot of people forget that the Boxing Hall of Fame is so close to home,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And pretty cool if you've ever gone there and checked it out. I think it's awesome. It's got a lot of old, ancient boxing artifacts, stuff that I love. I love to see, and a place that I would love to go for sure.
Yeah. I like that answer, and I can appreciate that. I like it a lot. All right. What's your
Yeah.
next one for me?
Uh, if you could pick your profession
Yeah.
in your life, any profession, any job, do anything, do any career, what would it be?
Well, I'm doing what I love right now,
Okay.
but there's other things that I want to do, and I was actually having this conversation last night. So,
Yeah.
so right now in this moment, I would be a screenwriter for a character that I love my whole life. I want to be the screenwriter for. It's funny because I was in the last time he was a lead in his own movie for Spider-Man. I was in it as an extra. So I would like to write the Amazing Spider-Man 3 for Andrew Garfield because I have an idea over the years, and on top of that idea I have like a deeper, really cool story, and I would challenge anybody to tell me it's not the best story that I could tell for his Spider-Man. So
Okay.
so I would want to screenwrite that movie,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to. I always interjected into stuff, as you know, from being on stage with me and doing different stuff. I always put my comedy into everything, but I've had people say to me like, "Why don't you just like just do the stand up, just get out there and just like." Because I have a lot of crazy ex girlfriends, Bryce, and I have a lot of stories to tell. so so
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a lot of people saying like, "Why don't you just take what they're like, you do it with all of us all the time. Why don't you just let people like really see what a set looks like?" So I probably look at that too.
That's a great idea. I think if you think there's pressure being a fighter and doing what I do, there's no pressure like being a stand-up comedian. I
Yeah,
can't imagine.
yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, I mean it's definitely interesting, but I think I've dealt with hecklers, I've dealt with other people in the media, so I feel like that part of it, it's like somebody screams out, you're like, okay, well obviously that person's not happy with their lives, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of comedy, and I think the thing is I get to share it so much on the show, and a lot of people get to know it, and I share it in public, and a lot of people like know a lot of different stories, and it's not that I would ever have any fear of going out there. It's more so of like, what stories do I want to tell, and because that's the thing is once they catch on, like somebody sees you in the street and they might yell out that story. You know what I mean? Like that story.
Yeah.
So it's that side of it too. So yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot of thoughts that I have, but comedy is a big part of me. I'm just trying to figure out like where the best place is to put it because I would want to. I know I can make people laugh, but I want to make my grandparents and my parents proud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
you can make somebody laugh, but do you want to go there with that? So because I got stories, man. I got stories, and yeah. So, all right, my next one for you, Bryce. If you could pick the next place you're gonna fight anywhere in the world, and you wanted me to come out and cover the fight, where would it be?
Man, I said it earlier in the show. The Garden.
Okay.
Garden. Let's make it happen. Let's call. We got to call. Let's make it happen right now.
Let's do the garden.
Yeah, Garden.
Uh,
Let's do the Garden for sure.
I like it. I like that. I'll open with my stand up, and then we'll lead into the fight. That's what we'll do.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
it'll be an HBO special because HBO takes the comedy and the boxing, so we can do both.
They do. They do. We can do
All right,
it.
Bryce, what's your last question for me?
Oh, man. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Well, I love my hometown, but my second home personally and my second home professionally, which is really becoming a satellite office for Wake Up Call and for a lot of the things I do with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, is the state of Florida. I mean, I have a Disney show. I have an entertainment show, which obviously there's a lot of entertainment down in Orlando area and throughout Florida. I have been to so many different parts of Florida, from Tallahassee, Jacksonville, all the way down to the Miami area. I've broadcasted from numerous cities down in the great state of Florida. I cover the Tampa Bay Rays. I've worked with the Bucks, the Dolphins. I have covered the Jaguars longer than any other credential my entire life, which this year is 13 years. And
Jeez.
I've covered USF, UCF, Miami, Florida State. So, I mean, if I was going to go anywhere, I'd probably be in Florida, but there's a part of me that wants to go to Hawaii. So,
Hawaii.
yeah.
Hawaii sounds pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it seems like half of Syracuse is in Florida now. When I go down there on occasions, if I ever go to I go to Orlando sometimes, or if I was to go to like Naples or an area in Florida,
Yeah.
I feel like I always run into half of Syracuse down there, people who used to live in Syracuse.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's moving now.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's because that's where you can still get plastic bags and styrofoam cups. So, like, Bray, I did a video on my Instagram, actually on all my social media, and and you could see the video on my reels on Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. I went to Sonny's barbecue, and the first night I was there a couple weeks ago, and there was a styrofoam cup, and I did a video, and in the video you just see the cup and you hear my voice going, so this is a new contraption. It's called a styrofoam cup. I think that it's exclusive to the state of Florida or the South, and I think I'm going to take it back with me, because this is such an exclusive opportunity to have something so rare. So I don't understand New York's hate for styrofoam or plastic. I really don't get it, but we live in a very unique state, Bryce, and I look forward to the day where upstate New York can break away from the island and we can have our own voting and we can pay our own taxes and we can stop dealing with all of their stuff.
I 100% agree with that. Yes.
So my last question for you is, what is something from your childhood that you either watched on TV or you ate that doesn't exist anymore? Like for me, there was oatmeal swirl, which was like oatmeal and you could put different colors in it, and then they discontinued it. So is there a TV show or a food from your childhood that you wish was still around?
Yeah, you know what? There isn't a TV show that I watched necessarily that I don't think is around anymore. But one thing I got to say is my grandma Luke makes a great butterscotch pudding. When I was a kid, I remember eating it, and I remember it being phenomenal. For some reason, it seems like that butterscotch pudding isn't around anymore, and I'm thinking about it right now. So that's one thing that from my childhood that I used to love, but I haven't seen it in a long time. So, Grandma Luke, if you're watching this, I'd love some butterscotch pudding.
And grandma, here's the thing. My dad's mom, my grandma on my dad's side, she made rigot pie. And two things that people don't know. Number one, a lot of people don't know rigot pie. Number two, a lot of people don't know it's called rigot and not ricotta pie. So
Yeah.
So rigot pie, my grandmother, I took her recipes because I lived, after she had moved out her house, I lived in the house for a while, and it was like my first apartment. Well, no, it was not my first apartment. It was my first house. And I had a box of her recipes, and I took it and I brought it to my house. And in that recipe box is the rigot pie, and I make it every single year. So here's my thing. I think Grandma Luke should make some butterscotch pudding, and I'll make my rigot pie, and then we can swap and we can taste test. I can try the butterscotch, you could try the rigot pie.
Agreed. 1000%. Sounds great.
So that coming from Bryce Mills, local talent who has stayed local, who trains local, and who cares about our community. Bryce, man, 21 years old yet. You've done so much in your life at such a young age, and you've barely begun. So I hope that you will feel the way that I feel at 37, which is the same way that I feel like you feel now, where I feel like I barely got started. And I hope that you have that passion and that fire throughout your life, because I see big things. I'm excited about it. But above everything, there's something that you did that I don't even think you know you did, or that you think was that important. And it's when I texted you, and I'm going to go back to it here. When I texted Bryce, I was at the fight, ringside at the fight, and I had not talked to Bryce in a while. And I said, "What's up, Bryce? It's Dan. I just covered your fight here at Turning Stone. Congrats." I woke up in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning to thank you, appreciate you coming out to cover it and support me. Hope all is well. That shows humility. That shows that you remember the people that have supported you. And that, to me, I've shared with other people, and I shared it with Pat Orr. I said, this kid texted me first thing in the morning the next day. And you know what I thought to myself? I thought, good. He hasn't lost himself. He hasn't gotten an ego, and he hasn't forgotten the people that care about him. So I want to thank you for that. And I hope you always keep that.
That means a lot. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, anyone that can give me their time of day and help me out, or come to support me and cover my fight is much appreciated, because at the end of the day, I wouldn't have the publicity I have, and I wouldn't have the name that I have right now if it wasn't for people like yourself. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Bryce, and there's plenty more to come. There's a lot more than you and I could do together, so now that we have broken the seal after a few years here, I look forward to continuing of having you on the show and having some good talks and some good conversation. So, next time it's just got to be over butterscotch pudding. That's it. So
That's right. That's right. You said it. Appreciate you having me.
Always. Bryce Mills here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
All right, take care. That coming from Bryce Mills here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing. It's to have somebody who, I mean, he's worked his butt off and things that he did while at Liverpool, and now to be in the boxing world, and he's at Turning Stone, and he's not just in the fight, he's winning the fight. And in a lot of times during this fight, he was commanding the fight. So, to me, to see Bryce be successful, and to see, this is what I live for, right? I live to see other people around me that are good people, that are caring people. I live to see them succeed. People talk about success and they say it's yours, right? I got to succeed. I got to get it. I got to get the money. I got to secure the bag. I got to do this for my family, for me. And of course, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of home base. But the true success that I respect are the people that say, I want to be successful, and I want her to be successful, and I want him to be successful, and I want like that and that and that, like all these people, I want to see them rise. And that when they're successful, it makes me feel good. And so to see Bryce out there, there was a lot of pride, a lot of excitement, and it makes me happy to see it. So, to Bryce, it, man, but I got kind of tears behind my eyes here this morning. And that comes from a place of just being really, really happy that people in my community are kicking butt, literally and figuratively. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back right after this with Dave Pasiak as we jump into the NBA Finals and celebrate the Denver Nuggets' first championship in their first ever appearance in the NBA Finals.
Hi, Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you where sports meets life every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and of course on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. If you'd like to listen to the live feed of internet streaming radio on Podbean, all you have to do is go to the homepage of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, which is wakeupcalldt.com. You go to wakeupcalldt.com, and the homepage will have right there for you the streaming feed for Podbean. So you can go right there and listen to the broadcast. And of course, for those of you watching and listening around the country and the world, you're on youtube.com and facebook.com /wakeupcalldt once again. Greg said the wobbly giant gets an NBA championship. Not many players with his unique game. And this is what we're here to talk about. Dave Pasiak joining me inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. DP, Dave Pasiak, DP, and DT here with you all throughout the NBA playoffs. We've done this for many years together. We're doing it again. Dave was saying off the air, kind of sad that we don't have more games to cover, but at the same time, exciting that Denver's 1 for 1. It might have taken a long time for their franchise to get to an NBA championship and an NBA opportunity at a title to get into the finals, but to be 100% in the NBA finals is pretty special. Getting there and winning your first and only trip there thus far. The Denver Nuggets win in 5 games, 4-1 over the Miami Heat for their first ever NBA title. And Dave Pasiak is here to talk with me about it. DP, how we doing?
Good. How you doing, Dan? Good to talk to you again.
Absolutely. Doing very well, Dave. And you know, for you, Dave, when you look at this series, and I mean, Miami in the beginning, right? We started off in Denver. So Miami is able to steal 1, and that's the only thing that they did. You know, they win game 2, and then that's it. And we move on from there. When you look at this and you look at this series, the only game that Miami won, how do you view that game? Because this could have gotten wrapped up in Miami, but I'm happy. I always think that it's better for a team to do it at home, and Denver got to do it in Game 5 back in Denver. So what did you see from Miami in Game 2 in the only game that they were able to get?
Well, I think right after it happened, we had talked a little bit, and Miami shot unbelievably in the fourth quarter, and I think, we as sports fans and analysts and all this, people tend to have a lot of recency bias. And, after game 2, everybody's, Denver's got to do this, Denver's got to change that. It comes right down to it. They had a 3 to send the game to overtime in a fourth period where Miami shot out of their minds. Robinson got them going, and then it kind of spread through the rest of the team. And, sometimes it comes down to just making shots. So, I think other than that quarter, Denver was really the better team in the series. I think that's one of the beauty of the NBA playoffs. I think, I've said this before, to me, it's like the NBA champion is probably the most legitimate champion of any major sport in our country or maybe the world. But, you look at, you've got to exert your will over 7 games. I think the thing that makes March Madness special is the whole, one and done upset potential and all that. But March Madness really, when you think about it, is set up to trip up the best team. The NBA playoffs are set up to identify the best team and crown them champion. And, I think in the NBA that probably happens, as often and as legitimately as anything in sports. So I think Denver, the thing I liked about this series, I think both teams really just play good basketball. I think if you enjoy the sport and there was a minimum of histrionics. I believe, I know through Game 3 this was I believe that this was the first NBA Finals in I don't know how long where there was no technical fouls. Like I think guys played and the histrionics were to a minimum, and you didn't. Like it was just, to me, it was a refreshing finals, and that it was just good basketball played on both sides. And, I think Miami deserved a lot of credit. Miami, I think they maxed out as a team. That team got to the NBA finals. They just ran into a team that was just flat out a better team.
Yeah, and I think what Dave was saying by this NBA finals in 5 games, no technical fouls. I think what he was saying was Draymond Green wasn't there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Draymond, and it's like, it's the Celtic-Laker dynamic. It's the Golden State, sense of entitlement and smugness that team kind of projects that can, that can go a long way. So, I just think, it was all about the basketball. And I think they both teams, but especially Denver, but I think both teams play kind of a style of basketball that it's a good watch.
Yeah.
So I think from a basketball fan standpoint, neither one of them gets the media attention of a lot of the other major markets in the country. But if you like basketball and you enjoy basketball, these people are all wet that say, the NBA, they don't like to watch the NBA. I think it's basketball played at the highest level, and you saw it in this finals, played at the highest level in a really entertaining way.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at this, Dave, like you said, I mean, this was a true NBA finals, it was true basketball, I should say, not a true NBA final, but true basketball in the sense of the fact that we were focused on basketball. We weren't focused on all this other stuff. We weren't focused on the circus that comes with LeBron, the circus that comes with Draymond, the circus that comes with Steph, the circus that comes with Boston. We were focused on specifically basketball. And when the games were being played, it felt like that. It felt like this is a basketball game. Who's going to outsmart the other team? Who's going to outdefend the other team? Who's going to outshoot the other team? But the thing is outside of that one game, and like you said, that one quarter by Miami, you couldn't win this by just simply shooting the lights out. You had to do different things. And what I really, really want to get into is the fact that I was talking to you about this off the air. The Denver Nuggets down the stretch with like a minute to go, whatever, they were playing incredibly good defense. And a lot of people that left the NBA and said, I'm going to watch college basketball because the NBA isn't basketball and it's frustrating and it's 1-on-5 and all that stuff. And I understand that argument to a certain respect with certain things at certain times. So at the end of this game, it was true defense. Denver was coming down, and here they are. They're up by 1, right? They see their lead dwindle and dwindle. They get a couple back. It dwindles. They get a few back. It dwindles again. And they, they might have bent, but they didn't break. They didn't give up. They didn't lose their fire. And they're multiple times down the stretch, 27 seconds left, a minute left, whatever it is, stealing the ball and getting fouled. They're taking possessions away from Miami. When Miami had a chance to tie, when Miami had a chance to take the lead, they weren't just playing good defense, and it wasn't like typical NBA that you see where the shot goes up and it either goes in or it doesn't. Denver was stealing the ball. They were jumping into passing lanes, putting themselves in the middle of this and taking the ball away. And for the people that love college basketball, I thought a great college basketball game was played, especially down the stretch, by the Denver Nuggets, who literally took away possessions from Miami, and that's how they staved off any chance that Miami would force a Game 6, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think, Miami's always had the rep of being, hanging their hat on the defensive end of the floor. And I think Denver's been a little bit maligned defensively. And I thought really, down the stretch they were great, but I really thought most of the game last night, that's what kept them in it because, Denver, they missed a lot of free throws during the course of the game and were just a little bit out of whack offensively. And I thought their defensive effort got them back in it, at the start of the second half, and really carried them down the stretch of that game. With the, Butler had a horrendous game except for about a 3-minute stretch where, he scored 12 or 13 straight points where Miami took the lead briefly. But, I agree with you. I think Denver really hasn't gotten the credit for what they do on the defensive end of the floor. I think people have it in their head that Jokic can't defend, which I think is, I think that's a fallacy. I think the guy is an incredibly smart player and plays, really understands angles and is much better defensively and much less of a liability than people want to say. But, you're exactly right. I think the whole game last night, Denver, I think, it was the defensive end of the floor that kept them in it and ultimately got them the championship.
Yeah, it was. It was so much fun to see that it wasn't just like shot for shot, try for like it was actual defense, and it's what basketball is, and it's what it's supposed to be. And I know so many people want to talk about the Joker and Jokic and what he's done and all this, but seeing his family at the end of all this, and granted, you think about this is an international thing. This isn't, this is really special just to have his family there. And to have his family there, and what I love to see, Dave, and this might be something that maybe nobody else talks about in sports radio or sports TV, his family being there and him kissing them on the cheek, men, women, doesn't matter, kissing them on the cheek, and like them kissing him on the cheek, him kissing them back on the cheek. I grew up in an Italian Hispanic family. And so I always, when I see my mom and my dad, I give them a hug, I give them a kiss on the cheek as a sign of respect. I loved seeing a grown man go up to his family and having that kiss on the cheek and just that hug and that embrace. And it brought me back to like great family values. And I thought that was so special. And I'm like, people are going to talk about shots and what went in and what didn't. Some idiots are going to talk about LeBron James today when he didn't even play in the finals. But I want to talk about the fact that, like, Jokic and his family, like, there was this genuine, I don't care about the cameras. I don't care who's here. I don't care that the world's watching. Just like when I come to the house on a holiday, I give you a kiss and a hug and I tell you I love you. I thought that was great. I loved it.
Yeah, like his wife and his brothers almost seemed more excited than he was.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure for all of them, it's like it was a special moment. I thought one of the most humorous things in the whole post game was his two brothers tossing Malone up in the air, up and down, like it was, something you see at an ethnic wedding or something. But,
yeah.
It's really, like you see Jokic and his family and the way Jamal Murray reacted when they won, and he was moved to tears. And, like one of the great things, like I think we look at professional sports and sometimes almost think that these guys are machines, and everything's manufactured and whatnot. And I think when you see guys like Jokic and the Nuggets in general, and winning it on their home court and the way the city and the fans there responded to them, I think it reminds us that they're humans with human emotions and how much this stuff really means to them, and it's kind of it's the culmination of their career. It's the old wide world of sports thing, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, right? And to see the genuineness, and you see it right from the final horn. Like, that's one of the things, like, I love about the NBA playoffs in NBA basketball in general is like after the game, like you see the genuine respect and emotion between the two teams.
Yeah.
It's not the fake phony baloney handshake line that happens in college sports and high school sports and everything, which, I think there's genuine respect and emotion there. It's like you were out of boxing this weekend and, two guys are trying to, beat the other guy's brains out for, 6 rounds or 10 rounds or whatever, 12 rounds, whatever the length of the fight is. When the fight ends, there's generally a genuine show of respect and emotion, between the two guys. I think that's one thing that, it's just great about sports, great about, and at the highest level, these guys are humans and get excited and get emotional the same way, you watch the Little League World Series in a month or so, and the emotion and is so real there, and it's the same way with 12-year-old little leaguers as it is with guys in the NBA, or you're going to see it in the NHL or the Super Bowl, whatever. The emotions are the same regardless of whether you're at the peak of your sport or you're a kid just playing with your buddies.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, Dave, because you do see that, right? And you see it in highlight film, you see it in fight. I mean, in fights now, these people, guys, women, they're in these rings and they're going up against each other, and they're trying to, they're trying to win, they're trying to beat each other up, and at the end, like you hear that final bell ding, and they just hug each other. And good job, like, great fight, great. And that's what I love. I love the sportsmanship about it. And it's the moments I don't forget. Like, I remember Virginia and pardon me, it was Virginia Tech. So I remember Virginia Tech, and when Virginia Tech beat Duke, and I got to like witness that, what Storm Murphy. Now, Storm Murphy, when he was, I just so happened to be, and God does this to me all the time. He puts me in the right place at the right time. And so I'm at the event. I was covering the Big East tournament and the ACC tournament simultaneously. And I left the Big East championship, and I came over to the ACC championship. And they're both down in New York City, one in Brooklyn, and obviously one at MSG. And so I come back to Brooklyn, and I just put myself in the corner. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna watch it from here. And I'm watching Virginia Tech go up against Duke. If Virginia Tech wins, they've never won. The Hokies have never won the ACC title. People forget the Hokies were a Big East school back in the day. And so they win or they've never won an ACC title, let me say. So back to the Big East and all that stuff. So they win the ACC title. Storm is coming off. It's one of the videos I put up. Now, I put it up because of sportsmanship, but I just so happen to be in the most perfect place to get it. And I'm standing there and I'm filming, and Storm, instead of coming off, he comes back in, and as the Duke players are going off the court into their locker room, he's standing at the tunnel, walking forward and trying to shake hands with every single Duke player. And then he hugs Coach K. And I just remember saying, like, this is sportsmanship. That video went viral. And like a year later, people were still commenting and reposting it. I will never forget Storm Murphy because of that. Because of what he did. He won a championship. He could have been celebrating with his teammates. He went over to Duke's end of the floor, knew where they were exiting, and took the time to try to individually thank and congratulate all of them, and then spend time with the coach. And that says a lot about a human being. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think that we need to kind of focus on and stress more in sports. I made the comment, like it's commonplace in high school and college sports, like the post-game handshake line. To me, that thing is like the most insincere act going.
Oh, yeah.
I think the true showing of like emotion and respect for your opponent, win or lose, which you see like you describe as Storm Murphy or boxers at the end of the fight, or what you saw at the end of the at the end of the game last night between the guys from Miami and Denver. Like, to me, that's like true respect and true sportsmanship. It's not like lining up and going through the line and slapping hands with a guy with a puss on and saying good game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. And you bring that up, and this is why, and I know you and I go back and forth on LeBron because you're a fan of LeBron, and I respect LeBron's game, but there are things that he has done where it's like, if I'm like, okay, you know what, let me give LeBron another chance, and then he ruins it. And it's like, fool me once, fool me twice. The fool me twice is shame on me. There was a game that he was playing up against my Toronto Raptors, and there was like 2 minutes and 44 seconds left, and they were losing, and it was en route to Toronto winning a championship, their only championship a few years ago, 2019. LeBron James walked off the court during the game with more than 2 minutes to go, like a giant baby. And he didn't come back out. He didn't shake any hands. And I was like, hey, if they won, he would have been on the court the whole damn time. Shaking hands, hugging, blowing kisses. And so, to me, it's like, I think when it comes to people like LeBron, a lot of people talk about it, but, he is such a face for basketball and for really any sport, that in the sense of like, when you look at all sports, he's one of the faces people know. When you do stuff like that, I don't care. And I bring it up because I'm never going to forget it. I don't care if you're 14. I don't care if you're LeBron's age. I don't care, which is about the same age as me, 37, 38. So, it's like, I'm looking at LeBron saying we're the same age, and my dad would have smacked me in the back of the head if I walked out of a game into the locker room during a game like an idiot. So, like, I look at stuff like that, and you talk about the line, that handshake line, and people walking off courts and walking off fields and refusing to shake hands. People have talked about it with Bill Belichick before with the Patriots. Dave, like that to me is like, it's such an offensive thing to the sport that the other side, I mean, like, it's such an egregious foul, and it's so bad, and it's so wrong, and it's not okay, and there's never an excuse for it, and there's never going to be an excuse for it. And so, I mean, when you bring that up, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I played basketball growing up most of my life, and you knew when you got into a line if you were shaking hands with kids that respected you, or if you were shaking hands with kids because you had to. And there's certain people that, like, you don't want to shake hands with, but like I was taught, you shake hands, you show respect. And even if somebody's crappy to you, you got to be the bigger person. But then there's other people that, like, everybody shakes your hand except for one kid. And you remember stuff like that. That's why I remember LeBron. And that's why I remember Bill Belichick walking off the field. Because when they win, they don't. And when they lose, they do. Not every time, but sometimes. And I think, to me, if you want true respect in any walk of life, you don't just shake hands when you win or when you get a promotion or when things work out for you. You shake hands all the time because that shows your character. And I don't care if you're 5 years old, 14, 38, 52. When you don't show that love and respect, it's hard for me to get around a player or a team that would do that because it's wrong. And I would get really frustrated by it. And I'm sure you do because you've been a coach for so long that I'm sure you see it. And I'm sure, you go up against teams and there's heated battles. And at the end of the game, maybe y'all shake hands and there's tremendous respect. And maybe there's some coaches that you shake hands with that are like, yeah, F you, I'm out. And so, I mean, the difference between what's genuine and what's not.
Yeah, and the only little counter thing I'll say to you is, I think when you do it and it's not sincere, it's as bad as not doing it. Maybe worse. I really have a sour taste for like the fake respect and the fake sportsmanship and all that.
Oh yeah.
Like I want to see it because it's sincere, and I mean, sometimes sometimes that stuff happens outside of camera view too, or you see it, like you see instances of guys going into the other locker room after the game, after cool down period, and congratulate them, and like to me that's a sincere act because they're doing it like not trying to get a photo op or not trying to do it because it's expected of them. They're doing it because it's sincere. That's my whole thing is like, I want to see it, but I want to see it because it's sincere. It's not like a fake thing that you're doing because you're expected to do, if that makes any sense.
No, it definitely does. And I think LeBron had no reason that night against Toronto except for the fact that he lost and he couldn't deal with it. But, in other situations, I mean, I always say I'd rather somebody hate me to my face than tell me that they love me and hate me behind my back. And I think that plays into exactly what you're saying is I'd rather somebody go, I don't want to shake your hand. And that might hurt, but I'd rather somebody say, I don't want to shake your hand as opposed to shake my hand. And then as I'm walking away, they're like, you see that joke over there? Man, I hate that guy. Yeah. So, like I don't like the fake. I agree with you, Dave, that fake love is worse than hate. I do agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you go back to, I guess the most famous example of that is the Bad Boy Pistons when they walked off. Isaiah Thomas led the charge. And I think that was like, I almost felt like that was like exaggerated disrespect to play into the bad boy persona.
Yeah.
That whole business when the Pistons walked off years ago. But there have been other instances. Kevin Garnett, he walked off after one of the championship games, but it was like one of those things where he just needed a cooling down period, and then he went and he's just like in the moment. He's like, I poured my, he just felt like he couldn't stay out there and be sincere about it. And then, after he had, there was a little bit of cooling down period. Then, then behind the scenes, he went and, sought out guys and congratulated them. So I think that stuff happens, out of camera shots sometimes.
Yeah, I want to talk to all the Raptors, and I want to know if LeBron came over and said hello after the game. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. You throw it out there as kind of a punchline thing, but there's, that's actually a great question. Did he seek out, Kawhi or anybody behind the scenes, or, DeRozan or whoever? Did he seek them out after? After the fact, and what kind of reaction did he have? That's really would be a great thing to know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why what the optics of it were terrible. It was ridiculous. I remember watching it in real time, going like, "This guy's a friggin' joke." And because the thing is like if you do that, I don't care who you are, and I tell people that all the time. I'm like, you could be talented, but it's how you handle that. I know some people that are really talented, but they got a huge ego. They're super disrespectful. They think somebody owes them something. They lie to people. They take things from people, but they never give back. And I say, as successful as that person might be, I don't respect them. I respect them as a child of God. I don't respect them as the person they've chosen to be. And I think that, like, when I look at LeBron, I respect the fact that he's one of the greatest to ever play the game statistically, but I don't like his nature. But if I got to know LeBron, and that's the other, that's the thing that I always say is it's like, I see what I see, but I don't know him personally. If I got to know LeBron and LeBron turns around and says, hey, I walked off the floor because, this guy said something about my mother and I just couldn't take it anymore, then that's a story I would want to know. Or, hey, Dan, I walked off the floor, but 2 weeks later or after the finals, I had lunch with Kawhi and we squashed it. And I was like, yo, man, in the moment, I was just feeling some kind of way. I apologize. Like, that would show me the character of the man. And at the same time, it would show me the character if LeBron's like, no, I walked off the court. I didn't say anything. I got on the bus. I got on the plane. I never talked to Kawhi. I don't care. Like, that would show me something too. Because, we forget that. I mean, and obviously people make mistakes and things go on. But there's like that story behind the story where you always want, like Dennis Rodman in the 30 for 30. You're like, okay, Dennis, you got an opportunity to redeem yourself. And Dennis Rodman was still Dennis Rodman, right? He was still the Rod, or I shouldn't say it, he was the Rodman that a lot of people think he is. Everybody did their introductions and they're like, hi, I'm Scottie Pippen. Hi, I'm Michael Jordan. Hi, I'm Steve Kerr. And then Rodman's like, yeah, what's up? You know what I mean? Like, he still had that, I don't care. I'm aloof. It doesn't matter to me. He's still playing the persona. So, but who is Dennis Rodman behind the scenes? Does he cry? Does he get choked up by stuff? Does he watch Miss Congeniality movies? Does he call up his grandma and go and see her every Sunday? There's things that we don't know. But a lot of these professionals need to understand, and I have to understand it, is how you carry yourself on the air, on the stage, at Walmart. It all has to be the same. And it's a tough thing to do, but at the same time, it's how you carry yourself. And I have to be real about this. I know Jimmy Butler had some of that bad boy, some people might call it, or that like rough around the edges with how he was with Boston and whatever. But at the same time, this finals, I wasn't hearing that, oh, did you hear what Jimmy Butler did? Did you hear what Jokic did? Did you hear that this guy said this? Jamal Murray did that? And did you hear about, you didn't hear about all the BS, all of the ridiculousness, all of the ancillary stuff that doesn't matter. You just heard about basketball. And so to me, like, I want to thank Miami and I want to thank Denver because this was a basketball series about basketball and it wasn't about, if Boston had made it, there was other stories. If your Philadelphia 76ers had made it with Joel Embiid and how he is, there's other stories. But when it came to Miami and Denver, it was basketball. And you know what, Dave? I think the sport needed it and I hope that they grow from it. I do.
Yeah, there was a great column, I think, in The Athletic. It was recent, like at the start of the finals or a couple of games into the finals, about how Jokic is not the star that the NBA wants because he's foreign, he's not that athletic, he's not super charismatic in interviews, all that kind of thing. They said he's not the star the NBA wants, but they said he's the star the NBA needs, with how he handles himself and the way his game translates to team and the way he translates to team and everything. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think people that really make it a point to follow basketball and watch basketball have known what he's about. I mean, he's a 2-time MVP and everything. But to the more casual sports fan, I think this was really the first exposure that they've had to Jokic, and I think his star is only going to grow from there. I mean, Denver is a team that they're in the Mountain Time Zone. Historically, they don't get the marquee national TV games. He's, like I said, he's a guy that he's not a quote machine or a big personality in that sense. I think this finals has really thrust him into the mainstream sports stage much more so than he's ever been. And, I think that's a good thing. Obviously, it's a good thing for him. I think it's a good thing for the league. You look at the top guys in the league now. I mean, you've got Jokic. You've got, I think, Giannis is cut out of similar cloth. Embiid, of course. Curry's still playing at a high level, but I think the league is in a pretty good place right now, in terms of like how they're how their top guys handle themselves, and how they're looked at, especially, like I say, especially you look at, Jokic has a legitimate claim on being the best player in the world right now. So, the sport's in a good place in that sense.
Yeah, what I mean, and that's the thing, and I like that. He's not necessarily what the NBA wants, but he's what the NBA needs, and like I said, his care for his family, his love for that, and just showing that. I love that. I loved seeing it, and it was awesome. So shout out to Jokic and shout out to the Denver Nuggets. We're going to jump into the ingredients to success. Dave's helped me with this for many weeks now. Proudly brought to you every Tuesday to wrap up our Tuesday broadcast, A Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, here where sports meets life. You're with us on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. You can pick up that feed by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage, and the Podbean internet streaming radio is embedded right on our homepage, so you can listen from there anywhere in the world by going to wakeupcalldt.com. So, ingredients to success every Tuesday, round out the show, proudly presented by Avicoli's, corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, down the street from Liverpool High School. Open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. They have the pizza side, casual. They have the fine dining. They have the bar. And, weather permitting throughout the summer, they have their outdoor patio, which is beautiful. You can also call them for catering, takeout, and delivery. 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. I always have them at the end of the Tuesday broadcast. And the tough part of it is I have to stare at the picture I have of the pizza, and I'm always hungry in the studio. When it comes to, I don't typically eat when I'm doing the show, obviously, so I really, really want Avicolli's right now. They bring you the ingredients to success. Dave, tell me the ingredients to success of the Denver Nuggets without just using the words Jokic and Murray.
I think it's culture and fit, and it seems like everybody is accepting of their role and values their role, and I think their roles are valued, within the organization. And you saw it with, Brown and Braun and Caldwell Pope last night, and different guys kind of rising to the occasion in different situations. So I think it's kind of a culture and team chemistry thing, having parts that all fit together and accept fitting together, which I think is a huge thing, because Jokic and Murray are young, and this is a team that's, a lot of things can happen to screw that up, as we've seen over the years with teams that we think are going to be in the championship mix for many years to come. But Denver has all the ingredients right now to be, at the top of the league and a championship contender, for the next several years. I think barring any kind of major injury or the whole Pat Riley thing, he wrote the book, The Winner Within. He said, you got to fight against the disease of me. And I think as long as these guys can keep the core together and everybody's, still in it for the team, I think they've got the ingredients to be, right in the championship conversation for a lot of years to come.
Dave, what have they done to the notion that you got to spend a ton of money and go and get the big three? What have the Denver Nuggets, by winning a championship, what have they shown today's basketball?
Well, I think their ownership and their front office and their coaching staff deserves a lot of credit, because they've got a big two, and the other guy that really I think came in on a national stage, even more so than Jokic, was Jamal Murray. I think he has. He fought back from a bad injury, and I think that's why he was so emotional at the end of the game. You see him hugging Kroenke, the owner, and saying thanks for sticking with me and all that. but they have kind of the big two right now. Murray and Jokic may be as as lethal as any combination in the league right now. And I think they've made good decisions in free agency and player development and scouting and drafting, because Denver is not necessarily the destination for free, the prime destination for free agents that that some other NBA cities are. So they've got a little bit of the feel of like the San Antonio Spurs when they were in their heyday, and they had like Duncan and Robinson were kind of cut out of a little bit of the same cloth as like Jokic and Murray, and the Spurs were just better than the rest of the league at identifying talent and finding the right parts, and kind of keep it like continuously retooling around Duncan, around Robinson, and that kept them at the top, at the top of the league for an extended period of time. And Denver has a little bit of that feel to them. Small market team that doesn't, or relatively small market that doesn't get a lot of national attention, but operates, maybe a little smarter and a little more efficiently than some of the other teams in the league.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned what you mentioned, because I was thinking about the San Antonio Spurs when I asked the question. They referred to the Spurs at one point as the most boring team in basketball. And I said, if boring means that I'm making the NBA Finals pretty much every single year, I'll stay boring. The Spurs were not, they were atypical, like you said. You have David Robinson, you have Tim Duncan. There were guys there, but it wasn't buying a team. It wasn't what LeBron does. It wasn't what Brooklyn Nets tried to do. It wasn't what the Sixers have tried to do. It was this reality. It wasn't what, with Kevin Durant going to Golden State. Or Kevin Durant going to Phoenix, for that matter. There's been teams that could show you what it was like to just win from within. Toronto won from within. San Antonio won from within. Denver won from within. What does that do for basketball? And what does that do for you, Dave, as a coach? Because you're coaching young men all the time, and they're obviously watching these guys, and they're trying to emulate these guys, and they want to be these guys in certain instances. When there's a team like the Denver Nuggets, the San Antonio Spurs, the Toronto Raptors that didn't do it with a big three, and found a way to win from within, to win over time, to build it together, to have guys come back from injury, to make a move or two that just happened to be the right move. What does that do for you in a teachable moment to the young people out there?
Well, from a teachable moment, it's a lot different dynamic in professional sports. So, I think the teachable moment is more like a guy like Murray persevering and battling back from injuries. Like, to me, there's a lot of teachable, that's a very teachable moment. Here's a guy that, suffered heartbreaking injury and has bounced back from that. He's not only one of the elite players in the game, but he's a champion now. And I think that's the teachable point. From a franchise standpoint, it's still a business. And it's like, you mentioned the Raptors, to get over the top, they still had to go out and get Kawhi, so I think that if you want to make it a teachable moment from a business standpoint, I think there's a lesson to be learned there from like the Raptors, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Nuggets, about understanding your resources, understanding your limitations, and making well-informed and strategic decisions to maximize your opportunity to be successful given the constraints you have. So I think, from a business standpoint, I think there's teachable moments for the organization. From an individual standpoint, I think it's more, a guy like Murray, how he responds. I think there's teachable moments on, you saw a lot of bench shots of DeAndre Jordan, and then on the Heat side, you got to look at like Haslam and Kevin Love and Lowry. I think there's teachable moments as far as how to be a leader even when you're not the focal point. So I think from an athletic standpoint, I think those are more of the teachable moments.
And I got to ask you this before I let you go. Speaking here with Dave Pasiak, inside of the Ingredients to Success, proudly presented by Avicolli's, inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You speak on teachable moments. Kyle Lowry went from being one of the shooters, sometimes the shooter in Toronto, to being one of the guys in Miami. Despite the fact that they didn't win a championship, what has Kyle Lowry shown you, and how would you define Kyle Lowry in the NBA historically?
Well, I think Lowry's a guy who has really, as he's gotten later in his career, has really changed the narrative on what people think of him as a player. I think when he was with DeRozan and one of the featured guys in Toronto, he had kind of the James Harden rap about he's going to come up weak in the big moments in the playoffs. And he's kind of managed to flip that perception of himself to a large extent. And I think as he's gotten later in his career, I think he's kind of morphed into more of the veteran stabilizing leadership role. And I think, like I said, him along with, Kevin Love has done kind of the same thing in Miami. So DeAndre Jordan and I think those guys, and Haslam, I think, is the greatest example of that. So I think Lowry has really changed the narrative on his career, I would say, over the last several years, and how he's transformed himself a little bit as a player and as a leader.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kyle Lowry's helping himself right now, which is a good thing, and I think, I'm happy to see him succeed. I really am. Dave Pasiak here on the show, helping me with the ingredients to success for the Denver Nuggets, as well as speaking on Kyle Lowry and some other pieces here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. I want to thank Avicolli's for all that they do with the ingredients to success and their ingredients of all of their fantastic meals all the time, located for you Tuesday through Sunday on site, on location, over at Avicolli's, and it's where we have our exclusive Liverpool Warriors sit-down broadcast every single month with their student athletes, administration, and coaches. So you can come see us over there and find out when we're going to be there by paying attention to our social media. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. As always, Mr. Pasiak, I appreciate you tremendously. Cannot thank you enough for being a part of the show. And we are not done, because despite the fact that the NBA has finished up their playoffs, you and I have a draft next Thursday, June 22nd, and we're going to have something coming up for that. So I look forward to having you back for the draft.
Yeah, it's like the NBA really has a great rhythm to the off season. And you got the finals are over, and now focus goes right to the draft. As soon as the draft is over, right to free agency and right to summer league, and so I think like the league has done a pretty good job of like maintaining interest in the product through these summer months. They're a little bit slow on the calendar, and certainly really interested in shifting gears on that, and seeing if Wembyama, we talked about the foreign players. We got another foreign player at the top of the draft, and the league really, and the game is really an international game now. So looking forward to all that, and appreciate you having me on during the playoffs, and really enjoy the conversation as always.
More coming up with Dave Pasiak as we get ready for the draft next week. Very excited about it, and I think the NBA's tagline should be, "We're already here," because as soon as the season ends, the next season is almost there. So they don't really ever go away, as Dave so eloquently put it. Dave, as always, thank you for everything that you're doing to mold young minds and more than basketball, to try and, build up men to be good fathers, good husbands, good workers in any craft that they choose, and just good people in our community. So thank you for how you pay it forward. Thank you for the time that you spend, and thanks for being a good friend.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you having me on, and we will chat again soon.
All right, talk with you soon. That coming from Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We'll take our final step aside of today's broadcast inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. We'll be back right after this to wrap up today's show on Wake Up Call.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Avicolli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicolli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicolli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you where sports truly meets that thing called life, and so proud and so thankful for all of the wonderful people in our community and beyond that are doing great things out there, like Bryce Mills, Dave Pasiak, and of course Avicolli's. Big thanks to all of you that have watched and listened all throughout the years and are here with us on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. That feed is also available by going to wakeupcalldt.com, and you can actually get any one of these three feeds. If you go and subscribe, bookmark, and save our website, wakeupcalldt.com, on the website's homepage, you can click on the YouTube logo, the Facebook logo, or on the actual Podbean feed itself, and it'll bring you to the live show every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, will get you our archive on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and TuneIn, as well as Boomplay and Podchaser. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on your favorite podcasting platforms. And a big thanks to our incredible partners Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, PB&J's Lunchbox, Chick-fil-A Cicero, and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Mother's Cupboard, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, 317 at Montgomery Street. The name of the location is the name of the restaurant. Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Watertown, as well as Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Great Lakes Honda City, and Avicolli's. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Dolphins joining me for content you're not going to find anywhere else. We covered them all the way through realignment and reclassification. We were the source of information from Athletics Director Bob Beretta and President Dr. Linda Lemura, as well as the school in general, all throughout the process of realignment. Our exclusive series on realignment and reclassification is available to you on the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For every first and third Wednesday of each month, we bring you AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. The Dolphin Dive dives into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. And we bring you those stories every second and fourth Wednesday of each month, and those being here with you as well. We're going to have plenty from the Dolphin Dive this week as Bob Beretta is on out of town, and so we're going to do some more Dolphin Dives, under promise, over deliver. There'll be a bunch of Dolphin Dives coming up for you and a lot of good stuff as we continue our Road to D1 series with the coaches at Lemoyne College. And for all of this content with Lemoyne, you could go to the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You could also subscribe to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, where many of you are right now watching and listening. For more information on your Dolphins, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com, and as always, Fins Up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You could find out about your Bobcats by going to the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, and that'll give you all of our shows of the Bobcats, with those shows in that library increasing by each month all throughout the year. So make sure you come and check out what the Bobcats are all about with student athletes as well as administration and coaches joining me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in a way the Bobcats have never been covered before. So definitely come and check out your Bobcats in a unique and special way here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. And of course, you can get them on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt as well. So make sure that you're joining us for our Bobcat coverage all throughout the year and through each month with the Bobcat Buzz. And for more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And as always, go Bobcat Nation. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank you for being here with me on this broadcast this morning. I want to thank my incredible guests, boxer Bryce Mills in the super lightweight division. Big time shout out to coach and analyst Dave Pasiak, and of course to Avicolli's, where you need to be going for lunch today and all throughout the week, lunch, dinner, and drinks. Of course, drink responsibly. 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, right down the road from Liverpool High School, and the exclusive home of our Liverpool Warriors athletic program broadcast. So can't wait to see you out there very soon for another Liverpool show, and appreciate you as always where sports meets life. So make sure you head out to Avicolli's and all of our fantastic partners in Central and Upstate New York. Thanks to Dave, thanks to Bryce, and thanks to you. And above all, thanks to God. God bless. No stress. Do your best. We'll talk with you soon. Be well, everybody.